Coming up on this episode of the Enough Already podcast, Tracy talks about her experience seeing Donald Trump in Philadelphia. Gary Johnson has a screw-up. We'll talk about that. What's in Hillary's ear? Anything? And we'll have Ashe Schow on to talk about the bad news Hillary received last week. This episode was recorded before September 11th, but you can catch every episode of the Enough Already podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and the TuneIn app. And find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Enough Already Podcast. All right, enough already. Let's start the show.
Enough already!
Hi, it's Fingers. That's Tracy. Tracy.
Yes.
You got to see the man.
I did.
The guy. Maybe the next president of the United States.
I don't know why you're including a maybe in that, but okay.
Hey, you never know.
Come on, he's caught up to her in the polls.
Yeah, that's true. But America could have a huge coughing fit.
That is true. Well, I'll conveniently just have to spend the day in bed on the 8th coughing. So only those that voted early or mailed in their absentees will be counted.
Well, you have to tell me how it went, what it was like to be in the same room with Donald J. Trump for his speech. What was it, at the Union League?
The Union League in Philadelphia, yeah.
That sounds fancy.
It is fancy.
Was there fine china?
No.
No?
It was in a It was in a ballroom with chairs set up. There was no eating in there.
Oh, I figured there was like some fancy dinner.
No. A fancy dinner at 11 a.m.?
Hey, had breakfast with
No.
really good cold pressed coffee.
Nope, there was no coffee on hand.
Wow.
Well, I assume it's a Secret Service thing. They don't want scalding hot liquid around.
I suppose.
Yeah. So
Wow.
the event was thrown together in about a day and a half, I guess. I found out on Tuesday that it was a possibility that I could go. And then I found out a couple hours later that, yes, indeed, I was going. So I just needed to cough up my Social Security number. Just a fun thing. And let me see. The room held about, according to the fire marshal sign on the wall, 425 persons. And I would say there were probably 50 members of the press there.
Okay.
At least. So they had risers in the back and then rows and rows and rows of desks filled with reporters that seemed to be in good spirits and being treated well, which might shock everybody. And then the audience was mostly members of the Republican Party from Pennsylvania, committee people and such. I know this probably won't shock you, but the chairman of my county was nowhere to be found.
Oh.
But he is pretty short, so it's possible that he was in the room and I didn't see him.
And who was he supporting in the primary?
I don't remember. I know that my precinct and maybe even my township went to Kasich.
Oh.
Yeah. I live amongst the Never Gold Fixtures people out here
Oh, okay. I understand.
that find him rather gauche. But I did hear on Fox Sunday, I believe they were saying the latest polls show that he now has 90% of Republican support.
It's creeping up there.
Yeah.
You're
reality starting to set in.
Philadelphia boy Mark Levin came out the other day and said that he's reluctantly supporting Donald Trump.
Of course. Well, we knew that was coming. I don't think that Beck will ever make that pronouncement.
No.
Because he's gone way too far in the other direction.
No, anytime to show your anger toward a candidate that happens to have a tan and maybe to the point where they're orange, stick your face in a bowl of Cheetos. I don't know if there's you can go back at that point.
No, there's no coming back from the Cheeto face.
No.
So the event was rather nice. It was, he's now the subdued Trump.
Yes.
So it wasn't a lot of hooting and hollering, and that's not that crowd anyway. So it worked for that room. I would like to go to one of the big events and see if he's still turning that stuff on, where it's more off the cuff, because this was total prompter. There were a couple little lines where he went off, where he talked about Pagliano, who's the guy that installed Hillary's server, and was kind of like, where did he go? What the heck? Where is that guy? Who knows, But it was interesting. It definitely was. I'm glad that I went. The Secret Service was really nice to me, even though they wouldn't let me go to the bathroom when I wanted to. But I had we were sitting there waiting. And I was like, all right, I think I can speed this thing up. It's, it's one of those Murphy's Law things. As soon as you go to the bathroom, that's when stuff happens, or you want to go. So it's like, all right, I'm going to go to the bathroom before you start speaking. So I get up, walk across the room to where the bathrooms are. Nope, you can't go. I was like, this will take me 30 seconds. I promise. And this is not a lie. Not one of those women that spends, 10 minutes in the bathroom. I'm like, this will be a real quick trip, maybe a minute. Nope, we can't. We have to close the doors. And I said, okay. And I had my e-cig around my neck. And the Secret Service guy looks at me and he's like, you need to take that off and hide it right now, because if anybody sees it, you're in trouble. And I was like, okay, thanks. At least I got to keep it. And afterwards, I was waiting for my car at the parking lot across the street, and there was a whole bunch of Secret Service guys. So I was like, ooh, let me find out if they know who Hillary's secret handler is. So I went up to them and I was like, you guys are Secret Service, right? And they're like, yeah. So I always start conversation with guys like that, talking about their earpieces. Uh-huh. Because I had to wear an earpiece when I was working in film. And the ones that go into your ear, there's two different ends you can put on those. There's one that plugs your entire ear up, and it's really annoying to wear it all day. When you take it out, you can't hear out of that ear. It feels like when your ear's full of water, which you may not be familiar with because you don't swim.
Is that the one that Hillary was wearing last night at the Matt Lauer campaign dealie?
No, this is different. These are little rubber things. The industry term for them is the donkey dicks. That's what we call them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what they look like. But there are other ones that are more fitted that allow for sound to get in around. And so I said to the guy, I'm like, you don't have a fitted piece? And he's like, oh, I keep losing them. And I was like, well, if you want to keep your hearing, so break the ice that way. And then I said, hey, do you guys know who that dude is that's always with Hillary? And they immediately knew who I was talking about. All three of them.
Did they look at each other?
Yeah, they were like, yeah, he's Secret Service. I was like, oh, he is? That's fascinating. I said, did you know that there's a cash bounty out for his identity? And all of them just lit up. They were like, really? And I was like, yep. And I gave them WeSearcher.com. I was like, go there and collect your cash. See you later. Bye. Thanks for keeping President Trump safe. I love it.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, but otherwise it was a fun event. I would have rather seen, old Trump, but I'll take new Trump. If that means he's going to win.
New Trump has gotten a lot better on the teleprompter.
Yeah, and I appreciate that he doesn't do the Obama thing where if you just tuned in, you'd think he's watching a tennis match. Because he goes 3 lines on the left prompter, 3 lines on the right, and back and forth. Trump just kind of plants himself, points in one direction, talks for a little while, maybe a minute or two, and then shifts.
Yeah.
And then when he's going off script, when he just looks straight ahead and gives you one of those lines, like, where the heck did that guy go?
Oh, well, it sounds... I'm a little bit surprised by the room was only 450 people there, you're thinking?
No, 425 was the max. And I think they only gave out 300 tickets.
Oh, wow. Well, that's definitely a smaller event for Donald Trump. Normally you see these events that are, 5,000, 10,000 people on TV.
But he was in Philadelphia last week in a private closed event with black pastors and ministers and other black entrepreneurs in Philadelphia, one of whom I got to meet yesterday. And he told me he had been at that event with him, and he's a young entrepreneur, real estate developer, and he's an independent that's just totally on board. I'm like, well, great. So he's gung-ho about the campaign.
So did you see much in the way of footage from this event make it outside those doors? Because they only had apparently one camera giving a feed to the media at that Detroit event.
No, they had multiple cameras. CNN was set up there. I don't know the other camera that rolled the whole time. I don't know which station that belonged to, plus all the local news was there. And I was tempted to allow myself to be interviewed for local news because I was wearing my Pepe green dress. Mm-hmm. And I was tempted to yell out Pepe, but I didn't want to get chucked.
Were you wearing your Make America Great hat?
No, but there were a couple people in the audience that were. I just thought it would be a little trashy. That club is pretty nice.
Yes.
You know, men are required to wear jackets and ties and stuff like this. So, but there was one guy that looked like he was NASCAR formal, I guess you would say. He had on a Trump hat that wasn't a Make America Great Again hat. It was a red hat with black Trump written across it, but he had sunglasses resting on the brim of the hat and then a ponytail resting on the back of his neck.
Nice.
But he was wearing a suit.
Oh, it must have killed him.
It was gross. But he was a Republican committee man. He had a name tag on. I didn't see which county, but I assume it's one of the more western counties, yeah.
But you won't hazard a guess as to where he's from.
No, I can't tell. I mean, once you get outside of Philadelphia, it's, you know, farm country, NASCAR land, hunting, fishing, shooting, Bible toting, all that stuff that Obama talked about. And I would throw Pittsburgh into that, too.
Well, I'm glad that you had a successful trip and you're very happy with what you saw, other than the fact that he was not rowdy Trump. He was subdued Trump.
Yeah, I anticipated that.
You could definitely tell there's a difference in him now with his new campaign team. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been really the media, you know, I don't want to say slip-ups, but, you know, it felt like every other day there was something controversial that was being said off the cuff or a tweet or something that got
they're still doing that
in a wad, but but you're seeing that, but it's less and less.
I guess. I mean, they're pouncing all over him for something that he said last night in that candidates forum. Old bag of bones Hildo, well, bag of fat bones, dragged herself out on the tarmac this morning for the first time to talk to the press in a little while. Yeah. And that was a love fest. But they're seizing on a comment that he made about our generals, you know, currently the top generals that report to Obama and the people that worked with him and Hillary when she was there. He said they've been reduced to rubble. And so this is very inflammatory, of course.
Oh, of course.
Yes, he really believes that there's just these piles of chalk dust or something, I guess, that are wearing epaulets and calling the shots.
I did not see much of the gaggle this morning. Did anyone roll an orange toward her?
No, but I don't understand why people are making a big deal out of that. That's a campaign tradition.
I think it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but it's something that they do. And I saw that I had seen that story later in the day, and I was like, really? People are angry about it? And I think I read about it on Breitbart, and there was a whole bunch of add-ons at the bottom that were like, hey, people are saying that this is a traditional thing that's done on the planes. I thought that they did that on the West Wing.
I don't remember them doing it on the West Wing, and I think why people are so up in arms is the woman had not talked to the press in 250 some odd days. And at the time that she did her little press conference, if you even want to call it that, because she had a bunch of hand-picked press people in the plane with her, they asked her ridiculous questions like, how was your Labor Day?
Yeah.
Do you have a Labor Day message? And then once she started becoming Grandma Hacky Hack, she had to step behind the curtain, so then they roll an orange to the front of the plane. I think people are kind of like, really? This is what we're seeing from this profession? Okay, maybe it's a tradition. Why, if this is a tradition, is this the first we're seeing it with this campaign? Is she not allowing the media to fly with her normally?
I think this is a new thing. Oh. She just got her plane because I think they're finally sticking with this stronger together theme. Because if you go back, if you and I remember this very well, because we laughed about it, that she was going to be our champion.
That's right.
And then there was another one or two different slogans that have appeared on her podiums. But since the convention, they've stuck with Stronger Together. So the paint dried on the plane over the weekend. So they shuttled the press on. But then they just pulled that press off the plane this morning and arranged them on the tarmac. And then she spoke over the whines of the engines, which I guess drowns out the fact that she's constantly yelling. And that brings me back to the whatever was in her ear, because I was, updating you during the candidates forum at commercial breaks, and I said she yelled the whole time.
Yeah.
And I do think that she's going deaf. That's why I think that she has trouble regulating her own volume levels. So I don't think that anybody was feeding her answers. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy to speculate that that's a possibility. I just think that she's deaf.
The woman's got problems.
Yeah.
I mean, we did this fun little thing with audio where we had my smartphone read a transcript from her coughing fit speech in Cleveland, which for 4 minutes, I don't think she said 20 words. And there was nothing but cough, hack, gag, hag.
Into the microphone.
Yes, into the microphone. Nobody went up there to try to help her out. But the most disturbing thing from that video that I saw, and you really need to just take a look at that video, just YouTube it, Hillary hacking in Cleveland. I believe it was the Sean Hannity show.
Yes.
Zoomed in on that video where she grabs a glass of water, and you think she takes a sip, but she actually she spits something into the glass, and it looks, I don't know if it's phlegm, Tracy. I don't know if it's Sucrets. I don't know if it's
Werther's.
Yeah, Werther's. If it's part of her thyroid, I have no idea what she's coughing up, but it's disgusting. Did you see this video?
Yes, you had me watch it. It's revolting.
The woman isn't well, and we keep hearing we cannot ask these questions about her health.
No,
is
and
absurd.
It is absurd, because the FBI report that dropped last Friday, conveniently right before the 3-day weekend, in the hopes that it would get buried. The tail end of that report has notes from their interview with her. And they're very brief notes. I mean, she was in there for hours, and it's maybe 4 pages long.
Yeah.
And in there, she talks about the concussion that she suffered.
Right.
And it was fascinating. I was watching, I think it was CNN, and they were discussing her health. And they're like, well, her only noted major health issue was that she had the flu, which led to a concussion. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? Her only major health issue was that she had the flu, and then she got concussed. So we lead with the flu, so that's all anybody thinks. Right. She had a stomach virus. They don't even say the flu. She had a stomach bug or something like this. Then she fell down. Then she had, she got knocked the fuck out. And she had to wear those, I think they're called Fresnel glasses with the weird lenses, because she had double vision for a while. And according to her and what she told the FBI, because of this concussion, she's lost a whole chunk of memories that are conveniently related to her briefings on how to handle confidential information. Of course. And she could only work a couple hours a day. But have no fear, kids. She's ready to run the world.
Thank God she doesn't play in the NFL. She get a concussion every other day. They made a movie about it.
Yeah.
And I don't hear of these NFL players. And granted, to be fair, they are 80 years younger than her. But they don't lose memory for weeks on end based on a concussion. And they get hit very hard by other players. I mean, how did she get a concussion? Just by falling to the ground?
Well, I think that the story was that she hit her head on a chest of drawers or a desk or something on the way down.
A Davenport?
Yes. Oh, man. Oh, probably. Oh. But you cannot question her health. What's that thing in her ear? Nothing.
You didn't see nothing.
No. Why can't she make it upstairs on her own? It was icy. Oh. I was looking at that picture again because I watched a little video some supposed doctor put together where he has decided that he believes she has Parkinson's disease. Mm-hmm. And he made a pretty compelling case, including photos from like WebMD and the Mayo Clinic explaining the symptoms of this. But they show that picture again. And when that came out, I was saying, okay, I don't see anybody in a damn jacket in this. And you're telling me there's ice on the ground? And then the other thing I noticed is there's another woman. It might be Huma, but I can't tell because it's the camera angle is all behind them. Mm-hmm. And she's walking up the stairs in stilettos, not holding the railing.
Right.
Icy stairs, stilettos, no railing.
Anthony likes her in stilettos.
Yes, he does. And that's why they broke up, because she refused to wear them.
That's right.
Well, you can't be wearing heels like that if you're with Madam Falls a lot all the time.
No, you can't. But this really does. You brought up the West Wing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
There are parallels. I mean, if she ends up being elected president of the United States, just like, what was his name on the West Wing there? The Martin
Bartlett.
Sheen character. Bartlett. Hiding a serious illness. All hell's going to break loose.
Yeah.
So we need to ask these questions, Tracy, because of the West Wing.
Yes.
We don't need to be duped again.
No. And we're told that we were duped with Reagan. We know that everybody was duped with FDR.
Yes.
I mean, they went to great lengths to hide his wheelchair.
Well, who was it? Woodrow Wilson had a stroke?
Yeah. And his second wife basically ran the joint for a while.
But we can't ask questions, Tracy.
No, it's sexist. They asked her that this morning. Not about asking questions about her health, but apparently people were saying she didn't smile enough last night. And you know that we're never allowed to question women and the amount that they smile.
Right.
Yes. So she found that highly amusing. And she told Andrea Mitchell this morning that she loved her and that Andrea was great before she took her question. I mean, Trump does that kind of stuff too, but it's just more of like he loves everybody and they all love him. Mm-hmm. Much more jovial, but this is, Madam Ice Queen. Oh, I love you, Andrea. You're just the greatest.
Oh, and then it's Andrea Mitchell on top of it.
Yeah. It's truly unbelievable. Hey, Fingers, do you know what Aleppo is?
No. Should I?
Well, apparently Gary Johnson didn't know, and it's a big deal this morning.
Okay. Is this like the nuclear triad where everybody pretends that they know what that is? And
what Aleppo is? I'll give you a hint.
Googling
It's a city.
It's a city.
Yes.
Yeah,
I should say, do you know where Aleppo is?
No, I don't know where.
Okay. No, and it's not like the nuclear triad. Aleppo is in Syria.
Oh, okay.
So they asked him, Gary Johnson was on Morning Joe this morning, and they asked what he would do about Aleppo, or something like this, and he's like, the what? So this is a big deal. Now he's done forever because he didn't know that Aleppo is the second largest city in Syria. Oh. Yes. Huge problem.
I can't run for president now because I didn't know where Aleppo is.
Correct. Well, I mean, honestly, the proper response is because he was like, "Oh, wow, that's kind of a big deal," or something like this. Like, of course, he's apologetic and stupid, and say instead of just saying, "Do you think that the president is kept from seeing maps?" I mean, honestly, yeah, it's kind of a big deal that you don't know that there's a city in Syria named Aleppo where there's some fighting going on, and apparently there's some chemical attacks, blah blah blah. But I'm pretty certain that the president of the United States has access to maps.
And we're kidding ourselves if we think that the person that's running for president of the United States is an expert on every country in the globe. Mm-hmm. On the globe. It's insane. Look, we could talk about philosophical differences regarding foreign policy. And, that came up a lot during the Republican debates over the no-fly zone in Syria. Mm-hmm. And we're talking generalities here. Nobody mentioned Aleppo during the debates that I know of. Do you remember Aleppo being a hot topic?
No, but if you watch the news, I mean, it comes up rather frequently.
Well, maybe Gary Johnson doesn't get all of his, Barack Obama, of course, gets all of his information. That's how he finds things out, is watching the news.
That's true.
Maybe Gary's a little busy and he's not watching the news every day.
It's possible. I mean, and he could always go to a joke about smoking too much pot and having memory issues.
There you go.
You got to learn to play this stuff off a little better, Gare. But,
Well, I heard last night during the campaign forum that Matt Lauer tried to Sarah Palin Donald Trump.
Yes. Basically asked him, I think he used the word homework. Like, what kind of homework are you doing? He wanted a list of books and newspapers and such that Trump is reading. And Trump basically just said, look, I'm traveling with all these guys. He did have General Flynn introduce him yesterday in Philadelphia, and Flynn was with him last night. And Flynn is pretty well respected. So he's just like, look, I'm surrounding myself with these people that know this stuff. I'm talking to them. I'm asking them questions. He didn't rattle off a list of books or a list of newspapers or anything like that. It's just like, give me a break, Matt. I mean, Hillary's grand plan for defeating ISIS. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
She's going to kill al-Baghdadi.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, because we all know that when Osama bin Laden died, that was the end of al-Qaeda. That they didn't just become ISIS or anything like that. They don't just change names and find new leaders. I mean, this is tribal culture. You take out their chief, and guess what? They just elevate a new one.
That's right.
How many times have you heard the second in command of al-Qaeda has been killed today? And then 3 days later, the second in command. You're like, wow, they got a lot of these second-tier commander guys, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Good luck. That'll solve it all. And she keeps maintaining no more troops on the ground. No more boots, excuse me. So we have either legless troops or she's picturing an army of hover rounders.
Well, she's still trying to court the Bernie people any way, shape, or form. She's gonna do what she can. But I'm seeing on the social media that maybe you're seeing movement with the Bernie people like you are with the Never Trumpers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're going to see a lot of them staying home or voting for Jill Stein. But Jill Stein's numbers are only at, 2%?
Something along those lines. I wonder what her name recognition is at this point. Yeah. If even 10 to 15% of the population know who she is.
You would think the Bernie people would know who she is, though.
Yeah. Some of them, the dieharders, for certain. But this is just an incredible disaster with Hillary. And she's red baiting again. Putin is the worst person on the face of the planet, so this is going to go very well if she ends up winning.
Did Matt Lauer ask Hillary what she reads?
No. Why would you ask the smartest woman in the world what she reads? Obviously, it's everything. I mean, she may not remember it due to head injuries and such, but she's read everything that there is to read.
That's heartwarming.
Yeah. And she'll just point to this morning she was saying she's been in talks with people like our favorite Janet Napolitano is coming back into the fold. It's bringing back the old crew. They're going to figure this ISIS problem out. No worries.
I still want to know if she got a concussion. We had that footage that we looked at of her getting on the plane.
Yes.
As Secretary of State, and she face planted. And she didn't get a concussion there, apparently, because there was no Davenport or coffee table or what other old person word can we use for some form of furniture?
I can't think of anything else. A credenza?
So there was not a credenza.
No, but she did pop right back up from that fall. She looked rather spry in that video, actually.
Well, that was probably, 7 years ago? 7 years ago? I don't know. But,
yeah, I want to say it was from 2010, and that was after she had fallen and broken her elbow.
Wow, but you're not supposed to point that out, that she falls a lot.
No, and apparently she fainted at some event in 2005.
Really?
Yes, that's what this quacky, well, I'm calling him a quack, who knows, this doctor whose video I watched the other day. I'll throw that up on our Facebook page because why not? Let's all get on this train.
You know who's been quiet? Dr. Drew.
Yeah. Well,
he made that comment about her health, and what was it? 30 minutes later,
it
CNN
showed me.
And Headline News pulled the plug on him in his show, which is a shame because I haven't watched his show recently, but he had friends on like Kurt Schlichter, and he would bring people on and have an interesting conversation in front of a live audience. Which
and that show trended almost nightly, something from that show. So that tells me it was being watched. And it was entertaining. And I appreciate the fact that he's willing to stick his neck out and say, hey, because he had come out months and months ago and said, hey, she's on Coumadin, which is a drug from like the 1950s and 60s that you shouldn't stay on for a long period of time. And I think she's getting really bad medical advice. I mean, that's a blood thinner.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. Yes, it keeps blood clots from getting chucked into your brain. But if you fall down and go boom, you're basically a hemophiliac.
Right.
So this is an issue for somebody that falls down a lot.
But this is what Dr. Drew does. You hire Dr. Drew, one of the things he does is he speculates on other people's health without, being their physician. I mean,
speculation is 5% of all news coverage?
Yes. But apparently Dr. Drew can't do that when it comes to Hillary's health. We have to silence him. We'll take his show away from him.
Well, I hear there's a 7 o'clock hours opened up on Fox now.
Well, there you go. Yeah, do we talk about Fox? Do you want to dive into this? I mean, because it's really been amazing how this network has been in a free fall now for some time.
Huh.
And now you see the... I mean, look, I don't know about you. I was shocked to see how quickly the Gretchen Carlson situation has been rectified with the $20 million settlement.
Which I think she should have held out for more. Come on now.
But this just happened. I mean, we the news just broke, 2 months ago?
That 2 months is a long time.
I don't know.
I think
for a case like that, it doesn't feel like that's a long
Well, they
time.
settled. They didn't go to court. They settled. Well, if they were going to settle, they should have just done it immediately and killed the story. Instead, they let it drag out all summer long.
So now, as soon as the settlement's announced, Greta Van Susteren decides she's leaving the network.
Yes.
Because she was sexually harassed?
I read part of the statement that she put out, and she said something about never feeling at home here. Like you didn't feel at home for 15 years? And this has just now occurred to you? So there was some clause in her contract that allowed her to get out of there, but it could only be done at that specific time. So she said peace. I don't know where she's going or what she's going to...
back to CNN.
It's possible. I mean, they're getting their asses kicked.
You would think she would have some sort of non-compete clause, though.
She's an attorney.
Yeah, but you would think she wouldn't be able to leave and immediately hop on over to CNN. You would think that there would be you got to sit out for a little while, 6 months, a year, something like that.
Well, we don't know where she's going to go.
It has to be. Where else is she going to go? The Blaze?
That's true. She could go to HLN. I mean, there's an opening now. She could follow Nancy Grace every night.
Well, she's leaving too.
Oh, that's right. No, she's going to her own network, though.
I'm sorry? Nancy Grace
I thought she was starting her own network.
Oh, good God.
Maybe that's where Greta's going.
Do you buy the speculation that there's going to be a Trump news network?
I don't know that it'll be a Trump news network. I mean, there's definitely a need for more news networks. Some that actually cover news.
Yeah.
I get sick of seeing the same 3 stories reported on every network, beaten into the ground, and, just panel after panel of, let's bring in a new set of speculators. It gets boring.
That's what cable news has become.
I know, it's sad.
To the point where you'll have panel discussions that will carry on hour after hour with new hosts over a tweet.
Yes. They dug up a tweet from Trump last night. This is Matt Lauer and his crack team of researchers. They had they allowed members of the audience that were gathered, and they were veterans. I don't think there was any active duty. I think it was all vets in the audience. And of course, all the questions that were posed to Trump were all posed by Democrats, service members. And it got real into SJW kind of territory with some of them. I was like, as soon as I saw them, and this is just me stereotyping, I rolled and was like, okay, where's this going? So one gentleman asked, I think he was a Vietnam vet, he was saying, my daughter was just looking into joining up, and then she looked at the number of rapes in the military, and she decided against it. Basically, the military is a rape den. What are you going to do about this? And, he was like, it's a serious problem. There are a lot of allegations. These people need to be tried. There is a judicial system in place within the military, and I want to leave that as it is, but these things need to happen much more quickly, and then there needs to be severe consequences and such, which is a fine answer. I mean, I don't know what else you do.
Right.
Except for separating the sexes entirely. So that's where Matt Lauer comes in. Well, you tweeted back in 2010 or something like that. And Trump had tweeted out the latest rape stats or whatever from the military, and then said, I don't know what people thought would happen when you put men and women together. So Matt Lauer takes that and is like, oh, so you're saying, so basically the only way to solve this is to not let women into the military. And he's like, no. I mean, yeah. What do you think? Are the numbers of rapes going to go up if you allow women and men to serve together in combat? Yeah. That's how this works. This is just like simple common sense, and it's taken as like a huge offensive thing to say. And then, okay. Then we have to play this false choice kind of deal where it's, we can either have women getting raped or no women at all in the military. Which one would you prefer, Mr. Trump?
And what books are you reading?
Yes.
Well, it sounds like everyone got a lot out of that event last night.
It was weak. I mean, Matt did give her a hard time right off the bat talking to her about her emails, and now the newest iteration of her lie with the classified information coming to her is all classified information has a header on it that says whether or not it's classified, top secret, confidential, whatever. None of these things had a header. So this is a new layer of this onion of lies. And that's simply not true. Especially, she had the ability to originate classified information. She doesn't recall the briefing that she had on this power of hers, of course, according to the FBI report. She has no recollection of being trained on that. But she knew that she was, there's some acronym for it and some official title. It's like originator of classified information or something like this. But she has that ability on her own. So she's then responsible, I guess, for putting a header on these things. Oops, she didn't. Or the other thing is, there's been some speculation, and I'm not sure if they have proof of this or not, but since there was classified information traded in these emails without headers, they're saying her staff or she herself took it off of the secured email system, removed the header, and then emailed it.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, it's insane, Fingers. I mean, this FBI report is hilarious. This woman had 13 Blackberries while she was Secretary of State, I believe. Lost a bunch of them.
13 Blackberries?
And 5 iPads. And her excuse, remember, she didn't want to carry 2 devices. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And there's a gentleman that writes for, I think he's at Talking Points or Mother Jones, Kevin Drum. And he wrote a piece, the key to understanding her. Mother Jones, that's where he is. Sorry. David Korn's little outlet. He had a piece out the other day. The key, Hillary Clinton's personal emails are the key to understanding Emailgate. Thanks, dude. Really? So he tries to break this down and gives out what he calls the fact pattern of this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fact number 1. He says in 2009, when Clinton took office, the State Department was willing to issue her an official BlackBerry with a state gov address. This is not true. It is to a certain point. She wanted the BlackBerry that Obama got, the special encrypto BlackBerry. And they, for some reason, said, no, you can't have one. I don't know why he got one and she couldn't, but okay, he doesn't put that in there. But the device wasn't allowed to connect to a personal email account, which, okay, I don't know. I haven't seen that anywhere. Likewise, a personal device could not connect to a personal account. Could connect to a personal account, but not to a state gov account. And then he has a little footnote. I don't know if this is true or not. So if Clinton didn't want to haul around 2 devices, her only choice was to use a personal BlackBerry and conduct official business on a personal account. So that's what she decided to do. And for the first time in my head, it clicked. Okay, this woman, first of all, never carries her own purse.
Right. Oh, that's not true. She carries hot sauce with her everywhere.
I mean, but she carries hot sauce in this purse that's carried by somebody else. So if you have somebody else is already has demeaned themselves enough to carry your purse with the hot sauce.
Yes.
You're telling me it would be a burden to put an additional phone in there?
Well, listen, if you love hot sauce as much as Hillary Clinton does, and she's an old lady, and as we all know, old ladies carry really small purses.
Mm-hmm.
So she only has so much room in that really small purse that she carries. So if you're going to choose between a second Blackberry, Tracy Connors, or a bottle of hot sauce, you're going to carry the hot sauce.
Yeah.
Aren't you? In your really small old lady purse that doesn't look like a suitcase.
Yeah, that somebody else carries for you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's on wheels.
Her space is limited. You'd think what they would do. Look, I'm not too familiar with purses. I don't like sticking my hands in them when somebody asks me to, can you grab something out of my purse? I just hand them the purse.
Mm-hmm.
Because guys in purse, it's confusing.
That's the right thing to do.
There. You never know what you're going to get. You may reach in there and pull out a bottle of hot sauce. You don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I would think if you have a woman like Hillary Clinton who has a problem with balance, her equilibrium is off, I would hand her 2 big purses, one on each arm, put them on her shoulder, and then that way you would think it would weight both shoulders down equally. She wouldn't be falling.
It's a good idea. I don't know if they have a suggestion box over there or not. But so here,
but you're not buying it. You're saying that there was room in her purse for a second Blackberry.
If you have room for hot sauce, you have room for a second Blackberry. So okay. This is from the FBI report itself. So the FBI investigation identified 13 total mobile devices. So that's where I get that number. I think it's 8 Blackberries and 5 iPads.
Wow. So
they said Clinton used 11 email-capable BlackBerry mobile devices, 8 of which she used during her tenure as Secretary of State. So 8. She obviously ended it with 1, right? So where the hell are the other 7? So she's lost 7 of these. Mm-hmm. And they said, let me see if I've got the hammer. You've heard this, right? That they broke them with the hammer?
Yes.
So she had an assistant whose last name was Hanley. I can't remember her first name. So this is also from the FBI report. Abbott and Hanley indicated the whereabouts of Clinton's devices would frequently become unknown once she transitioned to a new device. So Cooper, and I'm not sure who Cooper is, did recall 2 instances where he destroyed Clinton's old mobile devices by breaking them in half or hitting them with a hammer. Have these people not heard of water?
Gotta hit them with a hammer.
And I thought she cared about poor children. Like, shouldn't she be donating these?
Right. Well, listen, I think we're really being hard on her because it's not like this woman became Secretary of State and had a background in government before she became Secretary. It's not like she was a U.S. Senator or anything, Tracy.
No, but when she was a senator, she was also using a personal email and her BlackBerry.
Oh.
But this was one of my other favorite deals. Hang on, let me pull this up. I went through the FBI report on Friday because I've got a social life and such. Clinton usually carried a flip phone along with her BlackBerry.
A jitterbug phone?
Yes.
She have a jitterbug?
She has a track phone. But so here we go. She's carrying 2 phones. A flip phone. But luckily for Madam Concussion, she did not recall using a flip phone during her tenure as Secretary of State, only during her service in the Senate. Do you know how hard it is to find a flip phone these days? I mean, if it isn't a track phone.
You can find a jitterbug right now. I see the commercials at 3 a.m. on cable news. Sometimes, Tracy, you just want a really good phone that you can see the numbers and you can dial it with your elbow. That's what the jitterbug phone is. That's what she had. But my concern is when you have a flip phone and you're as fragile as she is, what if you open the phone and it hits you in the head? You can get concussed that way.
But one of the best parts of all of this, and I don't know if you've seen this part of the report. It's
I haven't seen
certain
any of the
people are drawing attention to it. Others are just ignoring it. When they were transitioning all of her emails around the place and moving them, because after she left the office of the Secretary of State, they upgraded the server that they had at their house. So while she was there, I believe it was just a simple Apple server. And then they decided they needed something better and bigger. So they moved over to another one and they wanted to back up her emails and all this nonsense. So they end up backing up her emails first onto a Gmail account, but then they load them all onto a laptop and a thumb drive. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of these names are redacted. So we don't know who did what. But this Hanley chick shipped the laptop with the archive, either via the Postal Service or UPS, she doesn't remember, to someone who was Clinton's something at the time. This is all redacted. I love this. So I assume this is Huma Abedin, who was Clinton's personal assistant at the time. Then somebody else told the FBI that laptop was never received. And that because the staff was moving offices, it would have been easy for the package to get lost. So nobody knows where the hell this laptop and the thumb drive are that have a backup of all of these emails.
She could be the next president of the United States.
There is a bounty out for that laptop right now, I believe, on WeSearcher.com. Check it out. If you know where it is, you can make some cash.
Oh.
It's stunning.
You know what I find amazing, too? Is that when you're Secretary of State, they get the absolute best electronics that money can buy. They got the iPads, they got the fancy Blackberries, and meanwhile, you can only imagine what that laptop was. It was probably one of the best that Apple has to offer. But the people that have to do the day-to-day work, or are involved in the nuclear program, are using floppy disks.
That was
5.5-inch floppies. Is that?
Yeah, that was for our nuclear facilities. Yeah,
wonderful. Nothing but the best, but you get to have these devices and then just lose them. You know what? It's raining Blackberries. We'll just get another one. Who cares what was on it?
And they would get her a new Blackberry, and then you know how old people are with new tech.
Yes.
It would last about a week, and then she would demand to have the old one back. So imagine dealing with somebody who's not technologically savvy. I don't know that she's ever had a personal computer, because that was part of the deal when the OG report came out. Is it the OG? No. Inspector IG, not OG. I'm in gangster land because I'm thinking of burner phones, which are the only people that use flip phones these days. Anyway, they had said to her, hey, you can have a computer in your office. Your office is a SCIF, which is an acronym that I never remember what it is. It's like security information place. So everything in that is confidential. Right? You're not allowed. Right. And she's not allowed to use a cell phone inside a SCIF. And her office is a SCIF. So they said, here's the workaround. We'll give you a desktop. Nope. She doesn't know how to use a desktop. Well, we can train her. Nope. She doesn't want to learn. Okay, that's a little terrifying to me. And then she's saying last night that we're going to wage cyber war against ISIS. Like, oh, okay, you and your 13 Blackberries and your 5 iPads. You're going to take out ISIS online. Can't even use a desktop.
Won't even do it from a desktop. That is frightening, because you for someone that is old enough to remember the 92 race.
Yes.
Where they trotted George H.W. Bush out to a grocery store, and he didn't know what those scanners were that would scan the barcode and have the price go directly to the cash register. And it was one of the reasons why he probably lost, because he was so out of touch. At least that's what the media portrayed him to be. And to a certain extent, that is true. When you are vice president of the United States for 8 years and then president of the United States, you don't get to see the world like everyone else does. But when you are first lady, then you become a senator, and then you become secretary of state, and you don't know how to use a desktop computer? My God.
Wouldn't you be embarrassed?
Yes.
You know, she can afford to have people come in and teach her these things secretly.
What did she write her book on? A typewriter?
Like she wrote her book.
I'm sure she did. Come on, Tracy. Don't sell her short. She's the smartest woman in the world. She probably wrote that book in 3 days.
I think she just dictated it.
Oh.
It's probably a lot of yelling. But in other email news, so the Democrats last night, our good buddy Elijah Cummings, I believe is responsible for this, leaked out the email exchange between Hillary and Colin Powell. So because they're going to play the, well, he did it too deal. Which I would like to remind everybody, next time you get pulled over for any infraction, try saying, but that guy did it too. And see how quickly you get a ticket.
Yes.
That does not get you out of doing bad things. That is never a legal defense. Well, so-and-so killed a whole bunch of people too. Okay, great. We're talking about you here.
Right.
And so they leaked this out. And this is an email exchange that happened, according to the CBS News report that I'm reading this from, 2 days after she took office. So if anybody has kept track of the email crap, you understand that at this time, she wasn't even on her server. Her personal server wasn't set up until March, I don't believe. So this is on a totally separate email account. But somehow Elijah Cummings has access to it. And she didn't throw away these emails.
She didn't have someone hit him with a hammer?
No, this is like her at Blackberry AT&T account, I believe. So this is all about Colin Powell's giving her advice of how to set, what he did when he was there. And, he was there in the early 2000s. And he had his own private email set up.
His Hotmail account?
Yes, something like that. It might have been a Yahoo account. Yeah. And I might not even be making that up. I feel like it was a Yahoo account. Or it could have been AOL. Anyway, so now they're Colin Powell's trending on Twitter today. And they're going to play the, well, he did it too. Okay, great. I don't care. Send them both to jail.
Right.
So ridiculous. But I love it. We can find these emails toot sweet. No problem. And like this is a setup from the beginning. She's the one that starts this conversation with him.
And why isn't anyone bringing up that what happens? What's her default position? Blaming the black guy. Why is no one's bringing up the fact that she's blaming the black guy? Oh, sure.
And she tried to rope Condi into this too.
Yeah.
Yep. Ooh, good point.
Typical.
Yeah. There's so much intersectionality going on with this blame game.
Well, are you ready for Ashe Schow?
I am.
Coming up next, Ashe Schow of the New York Observer and the Washington Examiner.
Enough already!
Hey, it's time for Ashe Schow from the New York Observer, Washington Examiner. She's here. Hi, Ashe.
Hi, Fingers.
So, Ashe, I gotta ask you. You wrote a piece, maybe it was today or yesterday, that not everything is a conspiracy against women. Is this piece that you wrote a conspiracy against women?
That might be a legitimate conspiracy, yes. I might have, be the exception that proves the rule or whatever.
So tell me about conspiracies, women and conspiracies. Apparently, anything that's thrown out there, it has to be anti-woman, right?
Right. Anything that anyone can claim benefits men is, people just like to claim that everything benefits men. And, this argument, which is from the Labour Party leader over in the UK, Jeremy Corbyn, that after-work drinks benefit men because men don't feel the need to go take care of their children while women do. And, I don't know what era he's living in with this idea where men don't care about their children. And there might have been like a Mad Men time where maybe that was more the case when men were the only breadwinners and they felt they had to work and do whatever it took to get ahead, or they were workaholics. But it's really just not the case anymore. But there's all of these people that are like Corbin's age that just like don't live in the present. And I would say that after work drinks, for a number of reasons, it's more like it doesn't benefit parents, any parent, because fathers leave because they'd rather be with their kids, or they have, they feel obligated to be with their kids. They want to be with their kids. Same thing with mothers. But even beyond that, in so many settings, after work drinks aren't really a place that's going to get you ahead at your job, because your bosses aren't usually going out with you because they have kids and families that they go home to, or their own lives that they want to leave work from, or they're still working while you leave. So, I mean, bosses don't usually tend to go out to these things anyway, so no one's really getting ahead. It's usually, the younger workers that are going out and doing this, the young childless workers.
That's what I was going to say. Doesn't it benefit the young childless women workers because free drinks?
Yes, pretty much. People tend to buy for you. I mean, it's kind of the case anywhere women go. They could, if they wanted to, get a man to buy them a drink. But it just frustrates me that there's just so many people of a certain generation that are just constantly saying women are at a disadvantage without just looking around.
Yeah, but you two don't understand. The only reason why these men want to buy you drinks is because they want to rape you.
I'm okay with that. It's not going to happen. I'll take the drinks.
Right.
But that's
I'm not going home with them. Right. Well, we're told that we can't defend ourselves or make rational decisions like, hey, that's fine, I'll take a drink from you, but I'm not leaving this bar with you.
Right, exactly.
And the other problem with after-works drinks is if your bosses do show up, you can end up getting yourself in trouble if you had too many free drinks.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many ways that it could go wrong by embarrassing yourself, by saying one wrong thing because even after one drink, if you're a little more honest, I mean, it can cause problems. You don't know what they're going to end up remembering about the night.
Well, it's so ridiculous. I know that all three of us have been in bars before for happy hour, and there are plenty of women in there, plenty of women who are wearing wedding rings.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that only men benefit from this, and women don't go out and have drinks, and women like to get away from kids too.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's not like one drink. It doesn't harm anyone. It's the people that are going after hours for drinks that have a family that are out to the bar till 3:00 in the morning. Then maybe write a piece about that.
I think Chris Rock covered that in his stand-up about 15 years ago.
And was that a part of the conspiracy against women, Tracy? Chris Rock is involved?
Probably. I mean, it could have started with him. I don't know if you remember that bit, but it's one of my favorites, and I still say goodbye the way that he did in that bit to this day. Because he's like, what are you doing in the club on a Tuesday night when you got kids at home? Bye. Bye. Go home, take care of your kids before they rob me in 15 years. But that's a conspiracy. Yeah, that's where it started. I think we've just figured that out.
Yeah, there we go. It's Chris Rock.
Well, I think that there was some pushback maybe a year or two ago from some of the men's groups that we should get rid of ladies' night, or maybe it was the feminists themselves. Get rid of ladies' nights at bars where women get discounted drinks.
And then they drink too much and men rape them. Because it's all about that.
Yes.
Well, I thought that there was also some fundamental unfairness involved where men were finally bitching and being like, hey, why do they get cheaper drinks?
Right.
Like, I can understand that. But they get cheaper drinks
absolutely.
because men want to go to bars where there are a lot of women there. So if you lure the women with the cheaper drinks, then you're going to get men there.
Right.
I'm just disappointed in you, Tracy, that once again we're going to start blaming the conspiracy on Chris Rock, who happens to be a black man.
I know. I can't help myself.
Racist, racist, racist.
I'm just following in the footsteps of the glass ceiling breaker herself, Hillary Clinton.
Ashe, you wrote about microaggressions, and it's easy to forget that a lot of people may not know what a microaggression is. Can you explain to people who don't know what a microaggression is exactly what it is and why a school has decided to go ahead and start training freshmen about microaggressions?
A microaggression is something you say to another person and mean no offense by, but they take offense by, and then therefore that means you are a racist, sexist, homophobe, Islamophobe, any number of horrible ists or phobes.
In your case, an ageist.
Right. For the many wonderfully, non-offensive comments that I make toward you, Fingers,
Yes.
of course.
Only a man in my early 40s, you make it sound like I'm in my mid-70s. But go ahead. I don't take offense to it, but some may.
No, of course not. But you also, give as good as you get. So it's not like it's our back and forth thing. But no, this is basically teaching students to assume that someone else is racist or sexist. So some of the examples that were given were that not to ask Asian students they don't know for help with math work. Now, on the face, you I think what they mean is that if you were just completely randomly out in the wild and you see an Asian person, you're like, help me with math.
You must be good at math.
Here's the other thing about that statement was that maybe, right? And let's not just assume racism. Maybe this person was in a class with this particular Asian student, a math class, and noticed that they were getting good grades and they were raising their hand with correct answers, and this person is not doing well and they want the best tutor possible. Maybe that's what happened, and it had nothing to do with, you're a random Asian person off the street, let me ask you for math help. Maybe they were in a class together. There was another one, apparently telling a non-white woman, I would have never guessed that you were a scientist, which isn't the feminist line that women aren't allowed in STEM at all. So wouldn't asking any woman that be whatever. Apparently white women are now allowed, but non-white women are not. But then again, and I explained this one out in my article, which was, there's no overt indication the person that meant it racially was not referring to say what this person had been wearing at the time, that maybe they were in shorts and a crop top or doing a keg stand, and that maybe this person only knew this woman as a partying slacker and was surprised to learn they were actually serious about something.
So you're trying to provide
it wasn't
context.
Just there might be context. And there was another one. So then they went into these descriptions of the different type of microaggressions, whereas then there's an environmental microaggression, which might be if you go into a chemistry class and there's only photos of white male scientists on the wall. That means anyone who doesn't identify as a white male, because you can definitely apparently now identify as a non-white male. I thought Rachel Dole, in the same article, this woman talks about how Rachel Dolezal was wrong. So how do you say self-identify as a white male? How do you include that and then not open yourself up to this? But whatever.
Wait, so an environmental microaggression isn't littering? Because that's immediately what I thought when I read that.
Right, exactly. It's these photos. And then it's well, maybe, again, context. Some of the most famous, scientists might be white males. Maybe the board is, here are the most successful scientists from our school, right? And so then that's a little more limited because, women are getting more into STEM, but historically have not been so into STEM. So there's going to be more men, And then there's also another type called a nonverbal microaggression, which occurs, an example of it is when a white woman holds her purse a little tighter if a black or a Latino person is walking by, which again, maybe from their perspective, she's doing it for that reason. maybe she does that no matter who is walking by, but all you see is your one single interaction with her. You don't know what else. Like, I clutch my purse on the metro constantly, and I clutch my phone toward me whenever the doors are open. Because once, years ago, I saw someone using their phone standing near the doors, and somebody reached in and grabbed it and tried to run away. Luckily, this person was an idiot, and the doors weren't exactly closing, so the person whose phone he stole was able to run out the door and chase him down. But I saw that, and so whenever the doors are open, anybody who's standing near me, I perceive, even like a little old lady could like just grab it and get out of there pretty quick. Like, I just don't trust anybody, but it's apparently racist if it happens to be a Black or Latino person around, and not, because again, they don't know what else if I do that for everybody or not. They're assuming racism onto me. Oh, and then there was one more. Micro-invalidation.
And this is new, right?
Yes, micro-invalidation.
Micro-invalidation?
Yes, where you're invalidating someone's experience by saying something like, everyone can succeed in society if they work hard enough. Or, the America is the land of opportunity. That's micro-invalidation, because a lot of people believe that they can't succeed just because of their race or gender or who they love or whatever. And so, I'm saying, like, what a great message for young people, just telling them they absolutely can achieve great things because of their race. Like, it's likely to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you'll fail, you'll fail.
And if you believe that there are reasons for that failure that you can point to, it makes it easier.
Right, exactly. There's no personal responsibility anymore, right? It's not that you didn't work hard enough or you didn't take a specific opportunity. It's just, I'm Black, I'm a woman. It's these are the reasons. When, like, a lot of times, and I can look at my own life, when I sit here and I'm like, I'm not doing very well. I'm not doing as well as I want to be. And, some people might just be like, oh, well, it's just because it's a woman. But then I look around, like, my employers, and I see them treating other women great. So it's like it's just circumstances specific to me. That have
so you're
nothing to do with
invalidating
my
your
sex.
own, Jesus, what the hell's the word? Your own experiences. You're invalidating them yourself.
I guess. It's that internalized misogyny, right?
Yes.
Any woman that's not a devout Democrat has internalized misogyny.
Well, this is like the deterministic view versus free will is basically what this boils down to. And they just want to deny that you have any free will. But they're the first to latch on and say, hey, you're depriving me of agency.
Right. None of your choices matter. All that matters is how you were born.
Now, the presidential race is tightening, and you wrote a piece in the New York Observer about one particular poll which may spell bad news for Hillary.
Yeah, there was a CNN poll out this week that showed Trump 2 points ahead of her, which, it's in the margin of error, but even in other polls within the margin of error, it's still Clinton ahead. And there was a poll last week that showed her just 1 point more likable than Donald Trump. So, this is 2 weeks with bad polls and a lot of bad press. And the candidate forum had some problems last night for both Trump and Clinton, who had the worst night. I'm not sure. I think it might be Gary Johnson's Aleppo comment at this point. But, it's been more than a week of bad news for her, and Trump hasn't really been out there saying ridiculous things like he has been in the past. So it's just been really bad for Hillary. And, this whole idea of her just kind of coasting to the presidency because Trump was so bad is just not really accurate anymore. It's not really possible.
Because she's a woman, Ashe. That's why.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you catch any of her presser, if we can call it that, this morning on the tarmac?
No, did she have another one on an airplane?
No, she actually got off of the airplane. She stood in front of it.
No, I missed that.
She managed not to fall.
With the engines whining in the background. And they did ask about, first the question she got was about the polls and her slipping in the polls, whatever. And then I believe it was like the third question was about the RNC putting out stuff saying that she wasn't smiling enough and, insinuating like, is this veiled sexism? And she's like, I'll just leave that up to you guys to decide. I'm sure that there are going to be PhD theses written on this. And I'm like, oh, my God. If anybody gets a PhD for writing about the sexism in the 2016 election, that signifies the end of academia.
Yeah. Clinton was very clearly irritated. She was being asked about her emails. She doesn't want to answer questions about them because everything she says about them ends up being a proven lie, and she just keeps doubling down. She doesn't want to talk about him. She thinks it's a non-issue, but it's what people care about. People, clearly this has been hurting her with her likability, with her polling. This is a big problem, and, I don't think Trump looks particularly happy when he speaks either.
Sure. But he doesn't yell and have a scowl on his face. I don't know if that's just her default tone of voice, this yelling nonsense. This it's not even shrill, because shrill makes me think that it's high-pitched, and it's not. It's just stern librarian kind of stuff. And she was snippy. She was rude to the veteran that said, hey, if I did what you did, I'd be in jail. And then she kind of just kept that tone through the rest of the thing. So this morning, she's all smiles out on the tarmac. I don't know what she's on today.
Yeah. Well, because she's giving press a few questions. She probably knew exactly what they were going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't going to be that tough on her. It was, she could walk away whenever she wanted, like she did when they were on the airplane with her. It was like, oh, I'll be back. And she never came back.
Well, if you don't say when, you just say, I'll be back.
Right, exactly. She meant today, this morning. That's when she would be back. She's just in a different place and time with different people around.
You can catch all of Ashe's work at the Washington Examiner and New York Observer, and follow her on Twitter at Ashe Schow. Ashe, we'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you then.
Again, you can check out the Enough Already podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and the TuneIn app. Music for the Enough Already podcast is provided by YoPaulyMusic.com. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with an all-new Enough Already podcast.